If you enjoyed this interesting video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring you even more exciting and thought-provoking content. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Join our growing community today. Your feedback, comments, and ideas truly keep this channel alive.
Chapter 1: The Making of a Lion. Ras Alula Engida was born in 1827 in the rugged highlands of Tigray, northern Ethiopia, a region defined by towering mountains, deep valleys, and the hardy people who called it home. From a young age, Alula showed a restless energy and an unusual sharpness of mind. He wasn't content with the simple tasks that other boys his age undertook. Instead, he would climb the rocky hillsides, observe the movement of flocks, study the way soldiers marched through villages, and watch how the elders negotiated disputes and guided their communities. Alula's early life was not one of privilege. He came from a modest family that survived on subsistence farming, yet his parents recognized an unusual spark in their son. They encouraged him to train both his body and mind. By the time he was a teenager, Alula had developed remarkable stamina, strength, and agility. He could run faster than most boys twice his age, leap over rocky ravines, and wield a spear with precision. But it was his mind that set him apart. He had an instinct for strategy, understanding how to outthink opponents rather than relying purely on brute force. His first taste of combat came not on the grand stages of history but in local skirmishes between neighboring villages. Even in these early encounters, Alula's leadership qualities began to emerge. He could read the terrain like a map, position his few fighters in advantageous spots, and anticipate the movements of his rivals. Stories from his youth tell of him organizing a small group of village youths to fend off raiders. The raiders were numerous and experienced, yet Alula's careful planning and unshakable courage turned the tide in favor of the defenders. Villagers whispered that the boy possessed the spirit of a lion, fearless and commanding. As Alula grew, Ethiopia itself was changing. The country was a patchwork of regional rulers, each vying for influence, while external threats loomed. Egyptian forces were expanding southward, and the Ottomans had designs on the Red Sea coast. Amidst this turbulent political landscape, a young Alula caught the attention of a local noble who saw in him the potential for greatness. He was recruited into the service of regional commanders, and his reputation spread quickly. By his 20s, he was already being recognized as a tactician who could lead men effectively, inspire loyalty, and act decisively under pressure. Alula's early career was marked by a relentless dedication to discipline. He trained constantly, drilling his men in the use of spears, shields, and firearms, all while emphasizing unity and morale. He understood that a skilled army was nothing without courage and cohesion. In battle, he led from the front, shouting orders, encouraging his soldiers, and showing no fear, even when the odds seemed stacked against him. Observers from neighboring regions would later remark on how Alula's presence alone could turn hesitation into a fierce, coordinated charge. The first major event that would define his rise came when the Egyptian army attempted to push further into northern Ethiopia. Alula was still young but already commanding respect among seasoned soldiers. He studied the Egyptian formations, noting their reliance on artillery and disciplined ranks. He chose the highland valleys as his battlefield, knowing that the terrain would slow their advance and make them vulnerable to ambushes. When the clash came, Alula positioned his forces with precision, launching surprise attacks from ridges and narrow passes. His soldiers, motivated by his courage, fought with a ferocity that astonished the invaders. The Egyptians, though well-armed, were overwhelmed by the combination of strategy, speed, and Alula's unyielding leadership. That battle was a turning point. It was here that Alula began to earn the name, the Lion of Ethiopia. Word of his victories spread quickly, reaching the ears of Emperor Johannes IV. The young commander, once a boy running through the hills of Tigray, had become a figure of national importance. His ability to combine keen intellect, physical prowess, and personal bravery set him apart from others of his generation. He was no longer just a local hero. He was emerging as one of Ethiopia's foremost defenders, a man who would shape the country's future in the decades to come. As the sun set over the Tigrayan highlands, Alula stood atop a ridge, surveying the battlefield below. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and the sound of soldiers tending to the wounded. Yet, despite the chaos around him, Alula's mind was already planning the next steps. How to fortify positions, anticipate enemy movements, and inspire his men to even greater heights. From this moment forward, there was no turning back. The boy of humble beginnings had stepped onto the stage of history, and the world would soon learn the name Ras Alula Engida. Chapter 2: Rising Through Fire and Battle. After the early victories that earned him recognition in Tigray, Ras Alula Engida's rise was swift but never easy. Ethiopia in the mid-19th century was a land of shifting alliances, external threats, and constant skirmishes. The young commander quickly learned that courage alone would not secure his people's survival. Strategy, discipline, and the ability to inspire loyalty in others were equally vital. Alula's next major challenge came with the Egyptian attempt to expand deeper into Ethiopian territory. The Egyptians were better equipped and more numerous, relying on artillery, rifles, and strict battlefield formations. Many commanders might have balked at such an opponent, but Alula saw opportunity in the difficult terrain of the northern highlands. He understood that mountains and valleys were more than obstacles. They were tools, weapons that could be used to amplify the effectiveness of his smaller force. He spent weeks scouting, observing the enemy's movements, and mapping every ridge, pass, and river crossing. He trained his men tirelessly, not just in combat skills but in understanding the terrain and responding quickly to his commands. His leadership was hands-on. He would run drills with his soldiers, correct their formations, and even spar with them, showing that no man was above the work required to survive and win. Loyalty to Alula was born from respect, not fear. His men trusted him with their lives because they saw him leading from the front, never hiding behind lines or sending others to do what he would not do himself. The first major engagement under his command was the Battle of Gunnet in 1875. Egyptian forces, confident in their strength, advanced into the highlands without fully appreciating the challenges of the terrain. Alula positioned his troops along narrow passes and ridges, concealing the majority of his forces until the opportune moment. When the Egyptians entered the trap, the Ethiopians attacked with precision and timing that stunned their adversaries. Alula moved among his men, shouting orders, rallying those who faltered, and cutting down opponents with a spear in hand-to-hand combat when the battle demanded it. The Egyptians were thrown into chaos. Their formations collapsed under the sudden assault, and the disciplined army that had marched confidently into Tigray found itself disoriented and overwhelmed. Alula's use of ambush tactics and high-ground advantage turned the engagement into a decisive Ethiopian victory. The triumph was not just a tactical success, it marked the emergence of Ras Alula as a national figure capable of defending Ethiopia against larger, technologically superior forces. Following Gundet, Alula continued his campaigns against Egyptian forces, culminating in the Battle of Gura in 1876. This time, the enemy arrived with reinforcements and heavier artillery. Many advisors warned that victory was unlikely, yet Alula approached the battle with the same calm determination that had characterized his youth. He analyzed the enemy's strengths and weaknesses, anticipating their movements, and instructed his men to hold key positions until the precise moment to strike. When the battle commenced, Alula again led from the front, inspiring his soldiers to fight with courage and discipline. His strategies were a combination of bold maneuvers and calculated patience. Ethiopian forces attacked in waves, using terrain to shield their approach and striking where the Egyptians were most vulnerable. Alula's leadership ensured that even when under heavy fire, his men maintained cohesion and countered every attempt by the enemy to regroup. The victory at Gura solidified his reputation as a tactician of remarkable skill, capable of outthinking and outmaneuvering opponents far larger and better equipped than his own forces. These victories brought Ras Alula national recognition, catching the attention of Emperor Johannes IV. The emperor saw in Alula not just a skilled warrior, but a leader who could inspire an entire nation to resist foreign invasion. Alula was rewarded with a higher rank and entrusted with the defense of Ethiopia's northern borders. Yet, despite his growing fame, he remained grounded. He understood that war was unpredictable, and that each battle required preparation, intelligence, and an unwavering commitment to his people. Even in times of relative peace, Alula continued to train his forces and reinforce fortifications. He studied the movements of neighboring powers and remained vigilant against potential threats. His personal courage and discipline became a model for other commanders. Young soldiers looked to him not only as a military leader but as an example of how strategy, intelligence, and bravery combined to create a true commander. By the late 1870s, Ras Alula Engida had become more than a local hero. He was now a national symbol of resistance, a rising force capable of defending Ethiopia against foreign powers, and a man whose courage and intellect inspired devotion in his soldiers. His reputation would soon carry him into battles that would define Ethiopian history, confront new invaders, and cement his legacy as one of the greatest commanders the nation had ever known. Chapter 3: Defending Ethiopia from the Mahdaists. By the late 1870s, Ras Alula Engida had firmly established himself as one of Ethiopia's most capable military commanders. His victories at Gundet and Gura had earned him national recognition, but the challenges facing his nation were far from over. From the west, the Mahdiist forces of Sudan began pushing toward Ethiopia's borders, threatening villages, trade routes, and the stability of the empire itself. Unlike the Egyptians, the Mahdaists were unpredictable, using guerrilla tactics, sudden raids, and relentless aggression. Alula understood that conventional battle tactics alone would not be enough to stop them. Alula was assigned to defend Ethiopia's western frontiers, a vast and rugged region that demanded constant vigilance. Unlike the highlands of Tigray, these lands were dotted with plains, rivers, and dense forests. The Mahdaists used this terrain to their advantage, striking swiftly and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Alula's task required both patience and boldness. He knew that the security of his nation depended not only on winning battles but on protecting civilians and ensuring the loyalty of local leaders. He spent countless hours riding through villages, meeting elders, and organizing militias. Alula trained his men in rapid response tactics, ambushes, and the use of natural terrain for defense. He instilled in them the discipline that had made his forces unbeatable in the north, emphasizing teamwork, precise timing, and courage. Every soldier under his command knew that their leader would stand at the front lines, sharing the dangers of combat, and making decisions in the heat of battle. The first significant confrontation came when Mahdiist raiders attacked a border settlement. Alula arrived with a small contingent of well-trained soldiers, outnumbered but confident. He carefully positioned his men along the riverbanks and in the surrounding hills, concealing them until the raiders approached. As the Mahdaists charged, expecting an easy victory, Alula's forces sprang the ambush. With shouts of command, he led his soldiers in a coordinated counterattack, cutting off escape routes and forcing the raiders into disarray. The victory was decisive, yet Alula did not celebrate. He knew this was only the beginning of a larger struggle to protect Ethiopia from ongoing incursions. Over the following months, Alula conducted a series of campaigns designed to secure the western borders. Each engagement tested his strategic mind and his ability to adapt to unpredictable conditions. He implemented defensive outposts along key routes, trained local militias to resist sudden attacks, and coordinated with other commanders to ensure that reinforcements could arrive quickly when needed. His reputation as a master strategist spread not only among Ethiopians but also among the Mahdaists, who began to approach incursions with caution, aware that Alula's forces were disciplined and ready. One of the defining moments of this period came during a prolonged skirmish near the banks of a major river. The Mahdaists attempted to cross under cover of darkness, hoping to surprise the Ethiopian defenders. Alula anticipated the move. He positioned sharpshooters along the ridges, concealed infantry along the river, and personally led a small cavalry unit to flank the invaders. As dawn broke, the Mahdaists found themselves surrounded, with Alula at the center of the attack, commanding his forces with precision and authority. The ensuing battle ended in a resounding victory for Ethiopia, demonstrating Alula's ability to combine strategy, leadership, and personal courage. Alula's campaigns against the Mahdist were not only military victories, they were also psychological triumphs. His ability to protect villages, punish raiders, and maintain order inspired loyalty among civilians and soldiers alike. Stories of his bravery and tactical genius spread throughout the region, creating an aura of invincibility around him. Young men sought to serve under his banner, while elders in remote communities offered intelligence and support, recognizing that Alula's leadership meant security and stability. Throughout these campaigns, Ras Alula's personal style remained constant. He led from the front, communicated directly with his soldiers, and never asked them to face dangers he would not confront himself. His sharp eyes missed nothing on the battlefield, and his quick decisions often turned potential defeats into victories. He understood the value of courage, discipline, and respect, and he demanded these qualities from every man under his command. By the end of this chapter of his life, Alula had proven that Ethiopia could withstand threats from multiple fronts. His victories against the Mahdists secured the western borders and reinforced his reputation as the lion-hearted defender of his nation. The battles were grueling, the campaigns exhausting, yet Alula's resolve never wavered. He had become more than a general, he was a symbol of resistance, a figure whose courage inspired an entire people to believe in their ability to defend their homeland. As he looked out over the plains he had defended, Ras Alula knew that new challenges lay ahead. The Italians, eager to expand their colonial ambitions along the Red Sea coast, were already making moves that would soon test his skills once more. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection, knowing that his careful preparation, strategic mind, and fearless leadership had preserved Ethiopia's sovereignty against the Mahdists. The Lion of Tigray had roared, and the world had listened. Chapter 4: The Shadow of Italy, Preparing for Dogali. By the 1880s, Ras Alula Engida had already become a household name across Ethiopia. Victories against Egyptian forces and the Mahdists had secured his reputation as a master strategist and fearless warrior. Yet new dangers loomed on the horizon. Italy, seeking to expand its colonial ambitions along the Red Sea coast, was making increasingly bold moves into Eritrea. Unlike previous adversaries, the Italians came equipped with modern rifles, artillery, and disciplined European military formations. For Ethiopia, this was not just a military challenge, it was a test of sovereignty and national survival. Alula immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. He understood that confronting the Italians would require meticulous planning, swift intelligence gathering, and an army ready to respond at a moment's notice. Unlike prior battles where ambush and terrain had been decisive, the Italians relied on disciplined drills, coordinated attacks, and superior firepower. Alula adapted quickly, studying their movements, analyzing their strategies, and training his soldiers to counter modern European tactics while leveraging Ethiopia's rugged terrain. He began moving troops strategically along the northern borders, fortifying key passes and positioning men where the terrain could amplify their strengths. Ethiopian soldiers were drilled relentlessly, practicing maneuvers, practicing rapid redeployments, and mastering the use of traditional weapons alongside firearms. Alula's leadership was personal and hands-on. He often rode ahead of his troops, surveying positions, correcting errors, and demonstrating the techniques he expected them to follow. His presence alone inspired confidence and discipline among the men, a factor that would prove decisive in the battles to come. As tensions escalated, Italian forces advanced into Ethiopian territory, underestimating both the land and the skill of the defenders. Ras Alula knew that waiting for them to make the first mistake could be fatal. Instead, he prepared a calculated response designed to exploit their assumptions. He selected Dogali, a strategic location near Massawa, as the battlefield where Ethiopia would confront Italian forces head-on. The terrain offered natural defensive advantages, with narrow approaches and hills that could serve as cover for Ethiopian troops. In the days leading up to the confrontation, Alula moved his forces into position with meticulous care. Scouts were sent to monitor enemy movements, while small units engaged in diversionary tactics to mislead the Italians about the strength and location of the main Ethiopian force. Every soldier knew their role, every maneuver was rehearsed, and every command from Alula was understood. The young soldiers who had once marveled at his courage in the mountains now trusted his judgment implicitly. The day of the Battle of Dogali arrived with tension crackling in the air. Alula personally led his troops to the front, riding at the center of the formation with a raised spear in one hand, shouting commands with a voice that carried over the battlefield. His full face, resolute and unflinching, was visible to all, an emblem of courage and leadership. Ethiopian soldiers advanced with precision, attacking in waves, using the hills and natural cover to neutralize the Italians' superior firepower. Alula moved among them, signaling maneuvers, directing flanking attacks, and ensuring coordination in the heat of combat. The battle was fierce. Italian forces, confident and disciplined, initially pushed forward, but they were unprepared for the intensity and coordination of Alula's troops. Ethiopian warriors struck from hidden positions, attacked flanks, and cut off escape routes. The chaos of the battlefield was amplified by the leadership of Ras Alula, whose strategic foresight and personal bravery inspired his men to fight with unmatched ferocity. By the end of the day, the Italians had suffered a crushing defeat, their column destroyed, and Dogali secured. The victory at Dogali was more than a military triumph, it was a symbolic assertion of Ethiopian sovereignty. Ras Alula had demonstrated that no foreign power could easily subdue the nation, and his reputation as a defender of Ethiopia's independence reached new heights. News of the victory spread rapidly, inspiring confidence among Ethiopians and sending a clear warning to European colonizers. For Alula, however, the battle was also a reminder of the cost of war. He walked among the wounded and fallen, ensuring care for those who survived and honoring those who did not. He knew that the struggle to protect Ethiopia's borders would continue, and that future challenges would demand the same courage, discipline, and leadership that had won Dogali. By the end of this chapter, Ras Alula Engida had solidified his place as a national hero. He was no longer simply a military commander, he was a symbol of resistance, an embodiment of Ethiopia's determination to remain free. The lessons of Dogali, the importance of preparation, terrain, discipline, and personal leadership, would guide him through the battles and political struggles that lay ahead. Ethiopia had a lion at its helm, and the world was taking notice. Chapter 5: Loyalty, Politics, and the Weight of Command. After the triumph at Dogali, Ras Alula Engida's fame spread across Ethiopia and beyond. Yet military victories were only part of his responsibilities. As a commander entrusted with defending the northern and western frontiers, Alula now faced the complex challenges of loyalty, politics, and governance. For a nation surrounded by external threats and internal divisions, the role of a military leader extended beyond the battlefield. Alula's relationship with Emperor Johannes IV was central to his position. The emperor valued his loyalty, bravery, and strategic mind, often relying on Alula to handle the most dangerous and delicate situations. But serving the emperor also required navigating the intricate web of Ethiopian politics. Regional governors, rival nobles, and ambitious sub-commanders all sought influence, and Alula had to balance authority with diplomacy. He understood that a commander who could not inspire trust off the battlefield might falter even with superior forces on it. In the months following Dogali, Alula oversaw the fortification of key border regions, particularly around Tigray and the western approaches. He encouraged the construction of defensive positions, maintained supply lines, and coordinated with local leaders to ensure rapid communication and reinforcement if enemies appeared. He trained his soldiers to operate in smaller, mobile units capable of responding to sudden threats, blending traditional Ethiopian military tactics with lessons learned from engagements against both Egyptian and Italian forces. Yet Alula's responsibilities were not only military. Civilians in the border regions looked to him for protection, guidance, and stability. He traveled frequently to remote villages, meeting with elders, mediating disputes, and ensuring that local militias were prepared to support the national army. This earned him immense respect among ordinary people, who admired his courage as well as his sense of justice. Tales circulated of Alula personally intervening to protect villages from raiders or resolve disputes fairly, further cementing his reputation as a leader who combined strength with wisdom. Even with his growing prestige, Alula never allowed himself to become complacent. He continued to drill his soldiers rigorously, leading exercises in the heat of the day and cold mountain mornings. He emphasized adaptability, teaching his men how to read terrain, anticipate enemy tactics, and maintain morale under pressure. Alula believed that discipline and preparation were the true foundations of victory. Stories from this period describe him running alongside troops during long marches, demonstrating spear techniques, and personally correcting formation errors. Political challenges, however, demanded as much skill as battlefield leadership. Some regional leaders resented the growing influence of Alula and questioned his loyalty to the emperor. Others sought to test his patience or undermine his authority. Alula navigated these tensions with careful diplomacy, using a combination of firmness, respect, and strategic alliances. He understood that political missteps could be as dangerous as a poorly fought battle. By earning the trust of key allies and maintaining his reputation for integrity, he strengthened not only his personal position but the stability of the empire itself. During this time, rumors of renewed Italian expansion along the coast persisted. Alula never underestimated the threat of European powers, keeping scouts active and preparing contingency plans for potential invasions. He studied reports of European military tactics, weaponry, and formations, adjusting his strategies accordingly. His ability to combine lessons from past battles with anticipation of future threats demonstrated a rare foresight that few commanders of his era possessed. Alula also faced the personal burden of command. Soldiers under his leadership looked to him for guidance in life-and-death situations. The weight of responsibility for their safety, for the protection of villages, and for the success of campaigns was immense. Yet he bore it with stoicism and resolve. Alula's presence on the battlefield was inspiring, his full face often visible, determined and unflinching, a living symbol of courage and leadership. Even in moments of exhaustion, he continued to plan, train, and lead. By the end of this period, Ras Alula had become more than a brilliant military strategist. He had become a central figure in Ethiopia's survival and governance. His victories and careful planning safeguarded borders, protected civilians, and maintained the integrity of the empire. His blend of courage, discipline, and political acumen set him apart from other commanders and earned him the lasting respect of the emperor, soldiers, and ordinary people alike. Alula understood that the struggles of the past had prepared him for even greater challenges ahead. Italy and other European powers continued to test Ethiopia's sovereignty, rival nobles threatened internal stability, and the ever-present threat of regional conflicts loomed. Yet he faced the future with the same clarity and determination that had guided him since his youth. For Ras Alula Engida, loyalty, strategy, and courage were inseparable, and he was prepared to defend his nation against all who dared challenge it. Chapter 6: Strategic Mastery and Expanding Influence. As Ras Alula Engida entered the 1880s, his reputation as Ethiopia's foremost military commander was firmly established. Yet, for Alula, fame was never a goal, it was the consequence of relentless preparation, careful strategy, and a steadfast commitment to defending his homeland. While battles such as Dar Valley had proven his valor, the years ahead would test his ability to combine tactical brilliance with political foresight. Alula's influence expanded beyond the battlefield. Emperor Johannes IV entrusted him with overseeing strategic regions of northern Ethiopia, ensuring that the empire's defenses remained strong even during periods of relative peace. Alula approached this responsibility with meticulous attention to detail. He assessed the terrain, studied historical patterns of conflict, and reinforced outposts along the most vulnerable routes. His men trained constantly, not only in combat but in logistics, reconnaissance, and rapid response tactics. Alula understood that preparedness was as vital as courage in determining the outcome of future confrontations. During this period, the threat of external aggression remained a constant concern. Italian ambitions along the Red Sea and encroachments from neighboring territories meant that Ras Alula could not afford complacency. He organized intelligence networks to monitor enemy movements, gathering information from scouts, traders, and villagers alike. This allowed him to anticipate attacks, deploy troops strategically, and avoid unnecessary losses. His ability to synthesize intelligence and make rapid, decisive choices became one of his defining strengths. One of Alula's greatest skills was his mastery of terrain. He recognized that Ethiopia's highlands, valleys, and rivers could serve as force multipliers for his smaller armies. In training exercises and actual engagements, he instructed his soldiers to use natural features to conceal movements, create ambushes, and channel enemy forces into disadvantageous positions. His knowledge of the land was so precise that even in unfamiliar regions, he could identify the best defensive positions and the most effective routes for advancing troops. Alula's leadership style continued to inspire devotion among his soldiers. He led from the front, often positioning himself where the battle was fiercest, and his presence was a rallying point in the chaos of combat. Soldiers under his command knew that they were not merely following orders, they were part of a well-coordinated force guided by a leader who shared their dangers and respected their skills. Alula's ability to balance discipline with empathy fostered loyalty that would remain unwavering even in the most desperate circumstances. Beyond military strategy, Alula played a key role in consolidating Ethiopia's political stability. Rival nobles and regional commanders often viewed his growing influence with suspicion, yet Alula navigated these tensions with a combination of diplomacy and firm authority. He respected the autonomy of local leaders while asserting the necessity of centralized command for national security. This balance allowed him to strengthen Ethiopia's cohesion without creating unnecessary internal conflicts. The years of strategic planning and training paid off when skirmishes with neighboring forces occurred. Alula's troops executed rapid flanking maneuvers, fortified defensive positions, and employed ambush tactics that maximized their effectiveness against larger or better-equipped opponents. He demonstrated an uncanny ability to adapt tactics mid-battle, responding to unexpected movements with calm decisiveness. Each engagement reinforced his reputation as a commander who combined intellect, courage, and foresight in equal measure. Alula also emphasized the importance of logistics and supply lines, recognizing that even the bravest army would falter without resources. He coordinated the transport of food, ammunition, and medical supplies, ensuring that his troops remained combat-ready over extended campaigns. This attention to detail distinguished him from many contemporary leaders, who often focus solely on the fight itself while neglecting the practicalities of sustaining an army in hostile terrain. By the mid-1880s, Ras Alula Engida's role had evolved beyond that of a battlefield commander. He was a strategist, administrator, and mentor to younger officers. His influence ensured that Ethiopia's military remained effective, organized, and resilient in the face of both internal and external threats. Alula's presence inspired confidence among citizens and soldiers alike, a symbol of strength that reassured a nation constantly under pressure from ambitious neighbors and colonial powers. Ras Alula understood that the battles ahead would demand more than valor. They would require foresight, adaptability, and unwavering leadership. His victories thus far had secured Ethiopia's borders, but the strategic and political landscape remained fluid. With each campaign, each training exercise, and each encounter with adversaries, Alula continued to refine his approach, building a legacy that would endure long after the immediate conflicts were resolved. By the end of this period, Ras Alula had solidified his status as Ethiopia's most formidable commander. He was not only a master of tactics and terrain, but also a unifying figure whose leadership extended into both military and civic life. As the empire faced continued threats from external powers and internal challenges, Alula's combination of strategy, courage, and foresight ensured that Ethiopia remained resilient, guided by a leader who embodied the spirit of a lion, courageous, disciplined, and unyielding. Chapter 7: The Italian Threat Intensifies. By the early 1890s, Ras Alula Engida had become a central figure in Ethiopia's defense and political landscape. His victories against Egyptian forces, the Mahdaists, and the early confrontations with Italian troops had proven his tactical genius. Yet the threat from European colonial powers remained persistent, and Italy, in particular, was determined to expand its foothold along the Red Sea coast and into the Eritrean highlands. Alula knew that Ethiopia's sovereignty depended on vigilance, preparation, and the unwavering courage of its defenders. The Italian forces, aware of Alula's reputation, sought to test him repeatedly. They advanced with better weapons, artillery, and disciplined European formations, often attempting to provoke an Ethiopian response under conditions favorable to their technology. But Ras Alula was not easily deceived. He studied their movements carefully, analyzing the terrain, enemy formations, and potential supply lines. His approach combined intelligence gathering, strategic positioning, and the mobilization of well-trained troops, ensuring that Ethiopian forces could strike decisively at the right moment. Alula's leadership was characterized by a blend of personal courage and tactical foresight. He continued to lead from the front, often positioning himself in areas where his presence could inspire soldiers and directly influence the flow of battle. His full face, resolute and commanding, became a symbol for his men, a living embodiment of the courage, discipline, and determination required to defend their homeland. Soldiers under his command trusted him implicitly, knowing that he shared the risks they faced and made decisions based on careful observation and strategy, not impulse. One of the most critical engagements during this period involved a clash near the Eritrean highlands. Italian forces had advanced along a key route, hoping to establish a permanent base. Alula anticipated their movements and arranged his troops in positions that maximized the advantage of the rugged terrain. He placed sharpshooters along ridges, concealed infantry in valleys, and organized mobile cavalry units to flank the enemy at decisive moments. As the Italians advanced, Alula's forces executed a coordinated counterattack, catching them off guard and inflicting significant casualties. This victory was not only a tactical success but also a psychological blow to the Italian forces. They realized that despite their superior firepower and European military discipline, Ethiopian forces under Ras Alula could anticipate, counter, and dominate engagements in the highlands. For Alula, the victory reinforced the importance of preparation, discipline, and understanding the land, a principle he had emphasized throughout his career. Beyond battlefield engagements, Ras Alula continued to strengthen Ethiopia's internal cohesion. He worked with regional leaders to ensure that local militias could respond to incursions, and he oversaw the fortification of key passes and towns. His focus on logistics and supply chains ensured that Ethiopian forces remained well-equipped and ready for rapid deployment. Alula understood that the survival of the nation depended as much on preparation and coordination as it did on bravery in combat. Despite constant threats, Alula maintained his focus on training and mentoring younger commanders. He emphasized the importance of adaptability, teaching them to read the terrain, anticipate enemy tactics, and maintain morale under extreme conditions. This ensured that Ethiopia's military leadership was resilient and capable of sustaining resistance even in his absence. His ability to cultivate loyalty, skill, and strategic thinking among subordinates strengthened the empire's defenses and created a legacy of leadership that extended beyond his personal accomplishments. Alula's confrontations with Italian forces were not limited to large-scale battles. Skirmishes, raids, and intelligence operations became a constant part of life along the northern borders. Each encounter tested his ability to adapt, command effectively, and inspire confidence in his troops. His victories, coupled with his reputation for fairness and courage, ensured that Ethiopian civilians and soldiers alike remained committed to defending their homeland. By the mid-1890s, Ras Alula Engida had become the embodiment of Ethiopia's resistance to colonial encroachment. His victories against Italy and other adversaries solidified his status as a national hero, while his strategic acumen ensured that Ethiopia remained a sovereign nation in a region under increasing pressure from European powers. His blend of personal bravery, tactical mastery, and political intelligence made him indispensable to the emperor and the nation. Through these years, Alula continued to demonstrate that leadership required more than courage. It demanded strategy, foresight, and the ability to inspire unwavering loyalty. He had proven that a nation could defend itself against better-armed opponents when guided by a leader who combined intellect, discipline, and fearless resolve. Ras Alula Engida stood as both a guardian and a symbol, a lion among men whose actions would shape Ethiopia's destiny for decades to come. Chapter 8: Consolidating Ethiopia's Defenses. By the mid-1890s, Ras Alula Engida had become more than a battlefield hero. He was a guardian of Ethiopia's sovereignty. The victories against Egyptian and Mahdist forces, and the repeated successes against Italian incursions, had established him as the foremost military strategist of his time. Yet Alula understood that sustaining Ethiopia's independence required more than winning battles. It demanded preparation, governance, and careful coordination across the empire. Alula spent much of this period traveling through the northern and western provinces, personally inspecting fortifications, supply lines, and troop readiness. He worked closely with regional leaders, ensuring that local militias were integrated into the national defense system. Every village and town in these border regions became part of a network that could respond quickly to threats. Alula's insistence on discipline and preparedness extended to all levels of command, and he drilled his forces relentlessly in both conventional and guerrilla tactics. Political stability was equally important. Rival nobles and ambitious subcommanders often challenged central authority, and Alula had to balance assertiveness with diplomacy. He negotiated carefully with regional leaders, respecting their autonomy while emphasizing the importance of national unity. By cultivating loyalty through fairness, courage, and competence, he secured the cooperation of both soldiers and civilians, creating a resilient defensive network across northern Ethiopia. Despite the pressures of governance, Alula remained intensely focused on military training and strategic planning. He continued to lead exercises, often placing himself in positions where he could directly influence outcomes. His soldiers respected him not just for his victories but for his willingness to share the risks of combat, to train alongside them, and to make decisions based on careful observation rather than impulse. Alula's personal presence on the battlefield inspired confidence and discipline, turning even inexperienced recruits into effective fighters. The threat of Italian expansion persisted. The European powers sought to consolidate their holdings along the Red Sea coast and were constantly testing Ethiopia's northern defenses. Alula anticipated these moves with intelligence gathering and reconnaissance missions, deploying forces strategically to both defend critical positions and strike vulnerable points in enemy lines. Each encounter, from minor skirmishes to larger confrontations, reinforced his reputation as a master tactician and a commander who could turn limited resources into decisive victories. Alula's leadership style during this period combined foresight with adaptability. He recognized that modern warfare was evolving and that Ethiopian forces had to adapt to changes in weaponry, tactics, and communication. He emphasized mobility, rapid redeployment, and the strategic use of terrain. His soldiers were trained to respond quickly to orders, to exploit enemy weaknesses, and to maintain morale even under heavy pressure. This combination of preparation and adaptability became a hallmark of his command. Civilian protection remained a top priority. Alula personally ensured that villages under threat were safeguarded and that the local populations supported the national army. He mediated disputes, enforced discipline, and rewarded bravery and loyalty. His reputation as both a just and fearless leader strengthened morale and inspired trust. For many Ethiopians, Ras Alula Engida was not only a military hero but also a protector of their communities and way of life. During these years, Alula also mentored younger commanders, passing on the knowledge and experience he had gained from decades of conflict. He taught them how to read terrain, anticipate enemy movements, and inspire loyalty among troops. By developing capable subordinates, He ensured that Ethiopia's military leadership could withstand the challenges of succession, internal rivalries, and the ongoing threat of foreign invasion. By the late 1890s, Ras Alula Engida's contributions had solidified Ethiopia's northern and western frontiers. His combination of strategic genius, personal courage, and political acumen made him indispensable to Emperor Menelik II and the broader Ethiopian state. Alula had transformed Ethiopia's military into a disciplined, resilient force capable of defending the empire against modern European armies. Even as he aged, Alula's vigilance never wavered. He continued to ride among his troops, inspect fortifications, and anticipate enemy maneuvers. The Lion of Tigray remained alert, ready to confront any challenge that threatened the sovereignty and stability of his homeland. By consolidating Ethiopia's defenses, mentoring future leaders, and maintaining unwavering courage, Ras Alula had cemented a legacy that would inspire generations of soldiers and citizens alike. Chapter 9: The Final Campaigns and Unyielding Spirit. By the late 1890s, Ras Alula Engida had spent decades defending Ethiopia from foreign invasions, internal unrest, and regional threats. His reputation as a military genius, strategist, and fearless leader had grown far beyond the highlands of Tigray. Yet even with his fame and experience, the final years of his life would test him in ways both physically demanding and politically complex. Alula's focus remained on the northern and western frontiers, where Italian forces and their allies continued to probe Ethiopia's defenses. While his earlier victories had earned Ethiopia recognition as a sovereign state capable of resisting European colonial ambitions, Alula understood that threats were constant, and complacency could be deadly. Every mountain pass, valley, and river crossing had to be defended, every outpost reinforced, and every soldier trained to anticipate the unexpected. In these years, Alula personally led several expeditions to repel Italian incursions. His strategy emphasized mobility and surprise, relying on the terrain to compensate for the enemy's superior weapons. He placed sharpshooters on ridges, positioned infantry in hidden valleys, and used cavalry to flank and cut off enemy forces. In every engagement, Alula's full face was visible to his men, resolute and commanding, a symbol of courage that inspired them to fight with unmatched determination. Alula's leadership extended beyond battlefield tactics. He maintained strong relationships with local leaders, ensuring that villages supported the army and that intelligence networks could report enemy movements in real time. He also worked closely with Emperor Menelik II, balancing military initiatives with the political realities of maintaining unity among Ethiopia's diverse regions. His ability to blend strategy, diplomacy, and personal bravery made him indispensable in preserving national stability. Despite constant military activity, Alula faced personal challenges. Age and years of battle weighed heavily on him. Yet he refused to retreat from responsibility. He rode with his troops across treacherous terrain, sometimes for days at a stretch, inspecting positions, training soldiers, and personally leading attacks. His presence on the front lines was a testament to his unyielding spirit, demonstrating that true leadership required action alongside one's men, not merely commands from a distance. One notable campaign during this period involved a confrontation with Italian-backed forces attempting to seize key highland positions. Alula anticipated their approach and set up a carefully coordinated defense. As the enemy advanced, his troops executed ambushes from concealed positions, attacked flanks, and cut off supply routes. Alula moved among them, directing maneuvers, rallying faltering soldiers, and inspiring extraordinary acts of bravery. The engagement ended in another decisive Ethiopian victory, reinforcing his legend as the Lion of Tigray. Even with victories, Alula remained aware of the broader implications of his actions. Each battle was not just about defeating an enemy but about preserving Ethiopian independence and inspiring national pride. He understood that morale, loyalty, and public perception were as critical as strategy and weaponry. Alula's ability to maintain these elements simultaneously was rare and earned him respect from allies and fear from adversaries. Alula's mentorship of younger commanders continued to be a priority. He trained them in both tactical skill and leadership, emphasizing discipline, foresight, and courage. He knew that the future of Ethiopia depended on capable leaders who could maintain the empire's independence after his eventual passing. These protégés carried forward his methods, ensuring that Alula's influence extended beyond his lifetime. As the years progressed, Alula also became a symbol of national unity. Civilians and soldiers alike revered him not only for his battlefield successes but for his fairness, wisdom, and integrity. His presence reassured communities that their homeland was defended by a leader who combined courage, intelligence, and unwavering commitment. Even in his final campaigns, his focus was never on personal glory but on the security and sovereignty of Ethiopia. By the time of his final engagements, Ras Alula Engida's legacy was already firmly established. His victories, leadership, and unyielding dedication to Ethiopia had made him one of the most respected figures in African military history. Yet, even as his health began to decline, his spirit remained indomitable. He continued to ride alongside his men, command with authority, and inspire the same courage that had defined his life. In these final years, Ras Alula's story became one of endurance, strategy, and unwavering loyalty. His campaigns ensured that Ethiopia remained free from colonization at a time when much of Africa was falling under European control. Through every challenge, his discipline, foresight, and bravery never faltered, and his name became synonymous with resistance, leadership, and the lion-hearted defense of his homeland. Chapter 10: The Lion's Legacy. By 1897, Ras Alula Engida, the Lion of Tigray, had lived a life defined by courage, strategy, and an unwavering commitment to Ethiopia. His body bore the marks of decades of conflict, scars from battle, worn muscles from endless marches, and the fatigue of years spent guarding the sovereignty of his homeland. Yet his mind remained sharp, his resolve unbroken, and his presence commanding. To his soldiers, he was both a mentor and a symbol of the nation's strength. To his enemies, he was a strategist whose reputation alone could sow fear. Alula's final campaigns had solidified Ethiopia's northern and western borders. His victories against Italian and Egyptian forces had demonstrated that a disciplined, intelligent, and determined army could withstand the pressures of modern European weaponry and tactics. Yet he knew that wars would always come, and so his focus extended beyond immediate conflict. He invested time in training young commanders, organizing local militias, and reinforcing supply lines. Each decision was guided by the principle that Ethiopia's independence must endure beyond his lifetime. In these last years, Alula also balanced military responsibilities with political and social leadership. He mediated disputes among local chiefs, ensuring that loyalty to the emperor and unity among regions were maintained. His fairness and wisdom earned him respect across the empire, making him not only a military hero but a stabilizing force within Ethiopian society. Villages under his protection flourished, and citizens found courage in the knowledge that their homes were defended by a leader of legendary skill and integrity. Alula's personal courage never waned. Even as his health began to decline, he rode with his troops, inspecting fortifications, leading drills, and planning strategic defenses. His full face, marked by years of battle, was visible to all. A constant reminder that the Lion of Tigray stood with his people. Soldiers drew inspiration from his presence, knowing that he would share both the danger and the burden of command. This personal involvement was key to maintaining morale and cohesion within the army, especially during tense confrontations with foreign forces. Despite advancing age, Alula remained deeply involved in Ethiopia's national strategy. He recognized the importance of adapting to changing warfare techniques, including the use of firearms and coordinated troop movements. He taught younger officers how to anticipate enemy tactics, utilize terrain to their advantage, and make split-second decisions under pressure. Through this mentorship, he ensured that Ethiopia's military leadership would remain capable long after his death. Alula's final public engagements were marked by a mixture of solemnity and pride. As he addressed troops and citizens, he emphasized unity, courage, and vigilance. He reminded his soldiers that their actions preserved the freedom and dignity of their nation. Alula's words were not empty rhetoric. They carried the weight of lived experience, of decades spent fighting to protect his people and homeland. Each speech, each command, reinforced the values he had embodied throughout his life: courage, discipline, strategy, and loyalty. Even in retirement from active battle, Alula's influence remained formidable. He continued to advise Emperor Menelik II on military and political matters, shaping decisions that would guide Ethiopia through an era of intense colonial pressure. His strategies, recommendations, and mentorship left an indelible mark on the Ethiopian military, ensuring that his knowledge and experience would continue to benefit the nation long after his passing. Ras Alula Engida passed away in 1897, leaving behind a legacy unmatched by most of his contemporaries. He was remembered not only as a warrior but as a guardian of Ethiopia's independence, a strategist who combined intellect with courage, and a leader whose presence inspired loyalty and bravery. His life became a blueprint for leadership, demonstrating that true power lies in the ability to protect, guide, and inspire one's people. Today, Ras Alula Engida is celebrated across Ethiopia and beyond as a symbol of resistance, determination, and patriotism. Statues, memorials, and historical records honor his contributions, while his story is taught as part of Ethiopia's national heritage. Scholars study his tactics and leadership style, noting how his combination of strategic foresight, personal bravery, and political acumen preserved a nation during one of the most turbulent periods in African history. Ultimately, the Lion of Tigray left a legacy that transcends time. His life reminds future generations that courage, discipline, and a commitment to one's country can overcome immense challenges. Ras Alula Engida's story is not just about battles and victories. It is about a vision for Ethiopia, a dedication to unity and independence, and a personal example of what it means to lead with honor, intelligence, and unwavering courage.